Hey everybody, welcome to the Chasing Freedom podcast with Noah and Jeff.
In this show, we're going to dive deep into flips, wholesales, holding rentals, and creatively structuring deals,
so that we can show you how you can achieve that lifestyle of freedom that you desire. All right, guys. Hey, welcome to the Chasing Freedom podcast with Noah and Jeff. We are super excited today, guys. We have Tamar, Hermes with us here today. She is a Bigger Pockets guest. She has a blog that she's done with Bigger Pockets. She's a huge buy and hold investor, 7-figure earner, and actually became a millionaire at the age of 33. So she's going to be spending some time with us today, dropping some knowledge, letting us know how she built out a rental portfolio, starting with duplexes in LA, into now a massive portfolio of rental properties that allows her to live the life of freedom that we're all after through passive investments. Tamar, thanks so much for being with us this morning.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for inviting me on. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. So we like to just get granular with our guests, right? So I just mentioned you started in duplex. Just walk us through what inspired you to start real estate, and then what inspired you to kind of grow that into a larger business than just buying and acquiring a couple of properties.
Yeah, that's such a great question. I think that I have a kind of a chip on my shoulder about this, because I think especially women, we are not as inclined to go for it in real estate because it feels scarier to us. And even if there's a lot of men listening, you have partners, and those partners may be the ones that are saying, hey, tighten the reins.
Yeah.
So for me, it was the same desire that most people have, where they start to realize that they're in a position of employment. I was an executive in television. I was making well over 6 figures at 28. And I just felt really trapped. And I didn't know anything about real estate. My family was not wealthy. We had a property that we lived in early on. That my parents got divorced. That whole story of like, there's no money and you're not really making it. And so I really didn't have an idea about it. But what I did know was that I needed to figure something out, because I just thought, is this what my life's going to be? Just going to, having to work for somebody else, and you immediately, it doesn't take long before you start seeing there's a ceiling on the income you're going to be earning.
Yeah.
And for me, I just couldn't bear that. And so I started looking for opportunities, and I ended up buying a duplex, because I figured if I could get rid of my bottom line, which was the rent, I could save a lot. And then if I could have a tenant, then all of a sudden somebody would be giving me money every month. So that's kind of how it started. And then from there, it's just I think it's a typical scenario, just like we were talking offline, where you have a market that's working, or you have a team that works, and then you just kind of keep doing it because it's a formula, and you think, okay, this is it. And you're still kind of nervous about what's the next deal going to be like. So that's how I ended up growing into the duplex scenario.
Nice.
I think what you talked about there is so powerful, because it's like, I think there's a lot of people when they try to get started, and I remember this feeling too, and I look at people that have so many assets, or they're worth millions of dollars or whatever it is, I'm like, how on earth do you even start? But I think the key principle that you just went over there is you have to learn how to manage $1,000 before you can manage 10. And you learn how to manage 10,000 before you learn how to manage 100, and 100 before 1,000,000. And so like you broke down your finances and you looked specifically, okay, what's my biggest expense? Okay, it's rent. Maybe it's $1,000 a month. How do I eliminate that? I did the same thing. That was the same foundational building block that I had. I looked at my rent. It was $1,300 a month. I said, this is ridiculous. This is like half my paycheck when I worked in corporate America. I wasn't doing very well in corporate America. You were doing well. So
he was not a 6-figure earner by far.
Not even close. So when I eliminated my mortgage expense, suddenly I was like, wow, I could take so much more risk. So I was able to go quit my job and go start in real estate and not have to worry about, can I pay for where I'm living? So it's like starting with managing something small, right? Like look at your biggest expense item, figure out how to eliminate it, and that gives you that freedom to take bigger risk. And that's really cool that that's what you recognized and took action on so quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. And I also think that I was a product of, you got to live life this way. You've got to get the job. You've got to find a husband. Everything was so traditional, and it was so against me. I mean, being a real estate investor is creative, it's entrepreneurship,
Yeah.
it's all the things that are really like where you can dance with different people and ideas and money, and it's so much fun. And I just saw it as every time I wanted to buy more or do something that was a little off the grid for my traditional folk, it was always, oh, that's scary, that's risky, you're going to lose your money.
Yeah.
And after a while, though, you start to get into the motion, just like you see, you like you said, you go from 2, you go to 5, you start looking at other ideas. I started looking at passive investments at a certain point because I just thought, well, if I can afford to put money in with other people and make great money, maybe I don't want to do all the work by myself.
Yeah.
So even better.
Yeah. What type of passive routes did you take? Like note investing or just investing with other flippers, or what was your route?
Yeah, all of the above, but not all at the same time. So
Yeah.
I started with a really seasoned multifamily investor and started putting money in there. Before I knew it, I had 7 figures in there. And then I started thinking,
Wow.
well, what else is there? Because I always like to be diversified.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, if I have all my money with one sponsor who I super great and I really trust, he's got close to $1 billion in assets.
Wow.
But I was still wanting to branch out and hedge my my portfolio a bit. So then I do have notes, mobile home parks, storage units, extended stay, you name it. Retail spaces, businesses, wow. Bitcoin, cannabis, you name it.
Wow.
I have a piece of it because I believe that it's a great way to go.
Yeah. I'm like super impressed on how diversified you are, because that's not easy to do, because you have to then you have to know just enough to be dangerous in all those categories. At least I feel like to feel comfortable putting your money in, you need to understand the basics of how that money is going to grow.
Yeah.
You do. You need to understand the basics of it, and you also need trusted partners. So I'm not in charge of all these deals. I have people that are very knowledgeable in them, and I lean on that probably more than 50%.
Yeah.
The fact that they have a track record, the fact that they know what they're doing, the fact that they have a reputation, and from there, then I really start to analyze the numbers and the logic in terms of what do I think that the the future looks like in the economy, and I love having a position in a lot of different assets, because I if one thing doesn't work, then another thing will.
Yeah. And I think that's a huge,
win some and lose some.
Yeah, 100%.
I think that's a great mindset to have, because it translates to so many things, right? Like when I started fixing and flipping houses, people are like, well, Jeff, you don't know how to do plumbing or electrical or floors. And I was like, I don't need to. I need to know just enough to be able to run this project and to trust the people that I'm having do the project. And so that worked for me in fix and flipping and allowed us to scale our business to doing like 30 homes a year. But I cannot go and do electrical. I can't do plumbing. Don't put me on a roof. I'll fall. I'm a big, awkward guy. I know just enough to get it done. And you got to trust the team that you built around you. So you were able to do that on like a 10x scale, right? Like we're on a single asset. You were able to do that in multiple different business sectors. And that to me is just super impressive. But it's also, I think it's one of the things I love about business and real estate specifically is you don't have to be a brainiac. You just have to follow the steps that the people before you have done and build a team of people that you trust. So you were able to grow your passive investment while still building a rental portfolio because you built a team around you, got trusted people, and you were able to just allow that to grow. That, to me, that's impressive, and it's a mindset shift that needs to happen when you kind of start to step into entrepreneurship. Is stop thinking you have to know everything before you take that step, because then you'll just get analysis paralysis. Like you'll be stuck.
Exactly. Yeah. And when you're comparing yourself to people who have come before you, when you look at all they've done and you think, I'll never get there. But we're all on our own process and our own journey. There's things that other people have done where I think, oh my gosh, I wish I would have done that. And people look at me and they think, I wish I would have done that.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I will add, though, is that I didn't just start buying and quit my job.
Yeah.
So, or I won't say job. I started a company, and then I had a company that was also earning a good amount of money. My husband was earning a good amount of money. So it really helps when you have money coming in. But just like the guys and I were talking right before, and you were talking about how you're doing all these deals and you don't even have money in the deal because you have someone that is funding it and it got a piece of the deal.
Yeah.
So there's so many ways to structure it. In my mind, I was someone, it took me a really long time to fully trust other people. I was not someone who grew up feeling like everyone was on my side for various childhood trauma reasons.
Yeah.
And so for me, you know, I always thought I'm going to do this myself. I'm not gonna let anybody too close because I don't want them to hurt me or to take advantage of me. And I think that a lot of us feel that way because we are all going through the vulnerabilities of life. In addition to having all the great things. And so I was someone who was funding most of the deals with my husband, myself. And now, of course, in the partnerships, I'm still the money person most of the time, but, and bring in partners who also have money, but I am still integral in terms of the process. And, you know, we all play a role in terms of what we bring to the real estate party.
Yeah,
absolutely.
You said something like 2 minutes ago that I really wanted to dive deeper into because I think that it could be really beneficial to anyone looking to get into business. You mentioned these different categories that you have money in that you're invested in. And you said the number one important thing was that you aligned yourself with A-level players that already are in that space. But the question that I want to pick apart and dive deeper into is how do you go about connecting with those people and how do you add value to them when they're in a different sector? Because I mean, for me, like real estate to real estate, I know how I can add value to other people in real estate. I can bring my knowledge to the deal. I can bring cash to the deal. I can find the deal. But I think about someone in Bitcoin or someone in the cannabis industry or whatever else it might be. I personally don't know how I would add value to them. So I'm curious on how you went about doing that and how you went about finding those people.
Well, there's a couple things on that. One of the key things you said is, you know, you can bring money to a deal. So the truth is there's a lot of cannabis funds. There's a lot of opportunities in Bitcoin. I mean, you can just buy Bitcoin. That's not, you don't need to know anybody. You just need to have money. And so, but educating yourself certainly, you know, through books. I'm in high level masterminds. That really helps. But in terms of going into other deals, that has to do with how much money you have. There is sometimes a barrier to entry on syndications because, you know, some of them have very high minimums and they lock up your money for a certain amount of time. And so while the returns are great, just like really most traditional effective real estate investing, which is that it is based on an equation of time, and time will generally work for you in the right markets and with the right strategy. And so, but those syndication deals will lock up some of your funds. But there are a lot of funds where you can get in for $25,000, and now you can even go on crowdsourcing and a lot of these other funds where you can do lower minimums because there are companies that have taken the time to create funds where you can put $1,000 in and like fundrise, you know, I don't think you need a minimum. Granted, I mean, the returns, you don't get the best returns. You get the better returns when you have more money and you can get access to those deals, but you still can get great returns and build wealth that way. So it's not really a problem. It's still great. It's just, you know, it's just a stepping stone, but you can certainly get into it at any level. So those are things also for people that are really maybe building a business and really busy and don't have time, but have some money that they really want to start investing. There's lots of places to explore. And as far as finding those sponsors, I mean, you can certainly, you know, you can go on Bigger Pockets. You have to vet a little bit and make sure, because some of the people on there maybe aren't as seasoned, but it's fashionable to be a syndicator now. So you need to make sure that it's not just fashion and flash, but it's actually intangible knowledge and a track record. You want to know, you know, have people exited a deal? Have they, you know, what kind of partners are they associated with? How visible are they? Because sometimes with the visibility, there also comes a piece of a responsibility. So, you know, if someone that's super visible, like let's say Brandon Turner, he's got these big funds, Open Door Capital. You know, if he starts not paying people, a lot of people are going to know about it.
Talk fast.
So he's got, he is a response, most sponsors are ethical and they would want to pay their sponsors anyway. I mean, they're investors, but still, he's definitely, a lot of people are trusting him and looking to him. So if all of a sudden he doesn't come through, then it's even more, it's more his reputation.
He's got a little bit more on the line. Yeah.
He's got a little more on the line, but you want that, because, and that's part of the reason why a lot of people will invest with someone like that, because they feel like, look, this guy, is, he's probably, if a deal goes really bad, he might take it even out of his own money to pay me to make it good.
Yeah.
Yeah, because his reputation is invaluable, right? Like what he does through his reputation is worth more than a single deal to him. So yeah, for sure, that makes sense.
Of course.
And if you look at someone,
that's one of the things you want to look at too. Like if it's like a small time guy that's like, hey, I just got this deal, how's it going, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Then hey, wait a second. And just the thing is that, and this is one thing that I always have to remind myself too, even as long as I have been doing this and as long as I've been on this planet, is that, don't take the first, like if you have a great meeting with somebody, don't think that that's the person you're necessarily going to do the deal with.
Yeah,
it's
that's
information, practice a little more in terms of getting the information. It's amazing. One of the things that comes up a lot that's always fascinating to me is the whole CPA, the whole concept of getting a CPA. There's a lot of misnomers about what a CPA does, whether they're a tax strategist or just a tax preparer. Yeah. And, you can line up a lot of vetted CPAs and they will all give you different answers. Yeah. And so it's really important to vet carefully and even there's a lot of very, very wealthy people I know that also switch CPAs with great frequency for this reason, is that it's really hard to find your way with it and to get on page, because the more money you have, the more variables there are and the more interpretation of the codes and knowledge of the codes comes into play. And that book of the CPA is this thick past the screen.
Yeah. I was just thinking about that today. Our bookkeeping is going to be very complicated this next year, right? Like we'll have some short-term rentals. We'll have a Airstream travel trailer that we put up on Airbnb. We've got our flip income. Then we'll have rental income. We'll have passive investment income.
We might go do some Turo rental cars just for the fun of it. Who knows?
And then I did a weird thing with, I invested in a crypto fund. Jeff and I laugh about it all the time because the way I went about it, I didn't vet as well as I should have. So I'm curious to see if I get my money back. We'll see. It wasn't more than I could risk. That's a point that I want to make. I didn't put more than, if I do lose it, it sucks, but it's not going to be detrimental to my business or to my personal finances.
Yeah.
But
I love that. A lot of people also with crypto, there's a lot of people that are saying, oh, get into Bitcoin, get in now into Bitcoin and Ethereum because in 10 years are going to be worth this much and this much. The truth is that there is a variant of risk, and Bitcoin of any long-term plays, the crypto is still gaining traction, even though it feels like, oh my God, it went up so much. The projections are that it has a long way to go. And so a lot of experts, and I would tend to agree with this, is if you only have $25,000, put it in a real estate investment. Yeah, put it in something that is a hard asset that you can wrap your head around, that you can make money in. Don't put it in Bitcoin. Don't try to get rich off Bitcoin, because the truth is Bitcoin could go to zero. The money, like you said, I can afford to risk it. The money I have in Bitcoin and Ethereum, if I lose it, I lose it. I put in the percentage that I was willing to lose. Now, there's a lot of people that are hedging a lot harder on Bitcoin, but honestly, when you hear people that have, when Elon Musk says, "Oh, I've got millions in Tesla in Bitcoin," well, he's the richest man in the world. So honestly, losing $100 million for him is still not really an issue, although it does. But it does speak to the fact that Bitcoin might have some legs, but still, I wouldn't put all your money into it.
I love that advice, because this is a redundant question, but it might be good for the listeners. In this room, have any of us ever had real estate that's gone to zero?
No.
I don't know if that can happen except for if the house burns down.
Well, then you got an insurance policy and a piece of land that has value.
So real estate can't go to zero. It can fluctuate. If it goes down, you just don't sell, you hold. But these stock market, individual stocks, Bitcoin, crypto can go to zero.
My Dogecoin tanked, bro. I don't know what happened.
So, have you ever had?
Hang on, what I hear.
I know. I actually just a real quick tangent. I got hyped on Dogecoin like pretty early on, and just was like, oh, I got like $2,000 just sitting in my account. Let me just like in my Robinhood account, which I've now left Robinhood. But so I just threw all of it at Dogecoin. It was great. We go out to dinner with some investors that night, and all of a sudden I just look on my phone and get a notification. This Robinhood, I check it, and it said like $22,000 from 2000 that morning, and I was like, oh, I'm cashing out. That's crazy. 3 weeks later, it's literally worth like $375,000, but I had already cashed out that night because I was so hyped. So I made $20,000. It was awesome. But literally like a week and a half later, my $2,000 would have gone to like, or like a month and a half later, would have gone from like $2,000 to like $375,000 or something stupid when it hit its all-time high. And I was like, crazy. Oh man. And what was dumb is I cashed out the $20,000. And it's still to the day when that was worth $375,000 was sitting in my Robinhood account and not being used on anything.
So you could have reinvested.
I was like, why did I literally pulled it out to just let it sit there. But that's just a total different tangent.
So I would have advised you to take some of the gain and leave the rest in, because you didn't really need the money. But trust me, I made so many mistakes in investing. The only reason, I had Tesla and it went up exponentially, a few $100,000. I didn't have 2,000. I put a little bit more in. I'm usually a little later to the party, and the reason is because there's less risk. I don't make as much, but the likelihood of me losing isn't as good.
Yeah, I think that's smart.
And I took at a certain point, I took half of it out. I took 150,000 out. It went up to 300,000, and then I left the rest in. And I think now that 150,000 went up to 250.
Yeah.
So it was like I took some of it out just to kind of feel like that was a huge win. And if something crazy happens, I don't want it to go to zero, but I didn't take it all.
Yeah, so, that's smart.
That's a really smart. I like that strategy.
Yeah, I know real estate like the back of my hand. Stocks is literally like me being a toddler walking in a room and being like, "What's going on, everybody?" Like, I did not know the stocks world, so I got to learn and study that a little bit more.
And still a $20,000 gain. That's pretty great.
Yeah, it was from two.
I don't know what you're going to do tax wise. That's a whole other.
That's
a whole other issue. You're going to have to maybe share some of that with Uncle Sam.
Yeah, that's for sure. We're trying to navigate around. That was actually when you talked about the CPA. We're in the process of being like, I don't know if the ones we're with are the ones we want to be with long term. They're not as aggressive as we need them to be. But so I actually love that point that you got to look and vet people more probably than we did on the front end. And I think people just get so excited, like, hey, I'm building a business. I know I need a CPA. I know I need a lawyer. I know I need a title agent. Like, and they just go with kind of like the first one that they enjoy, the first one that agrees with what they're saying.
You want to wrap it up.
Yeah, and they're like, that's the step. Yeah. It feels like a step to get started. And if I don't do it fast, then my business isn't going to get started. My business is going to scale up. My business isn't going to grow. And so you get in this rut where you're just like, okay, I'll say yes to that, and that. And then now we're like a year and a half later after blowing up, and we're looking back at it like, dude, we
messed up.
We do not have a CPA that's looking out for our best interests and like being aggressive. And so I think that's key is vetting people properly, but also like being willing to make that switch. Like you talked about the high net worth individuals that that roll through a couple of CPAs. Like be willing to make that switch when you realize something is wrong, whether that's with your lawyer or your CPA, the realtor you're using, whatever it is that you're using, the lender. Like there's always somebody out there who might be able to provide a better service to you. So constantly be looking for that, and it'll help your business grow. I think that's really key. I want to touch on. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I just wanted to touch on before, because I know we're running out of time, and I really want to get to, you have a company called Wealth Warrior Woman. Walk us through what that looked like. When I saw your Instagram, I was like, man, that is the coolest thing ever. I am all for I actually hate the stigma that like men have to go out and build a business. Men, like, I would love to just be at home with my kids. Like my wife's not an entrepreneur. That is what it is. Like I'm stoked I'm an entrepreneur. It is who I am. But I think there's a stigma in the U.S. that like, women can't build businesses. Women can't be investors. Women can't be entrepreneurs. So to see what you're doing on that front, that's really inspiring to me and Noah too. We're both really passionate about that. And we have a lot of investors. Like our main coach is a female investor who is an absolute boss. Like she makes us look like total chumps. So walk us through what that looks like, what that how you got inspired to create that.
Yeah, I mean, I think like 5 years ago, I really went on a journey of, okay, there's this whole drive to get to kind of that FF number, right? And to feel like, okay, now I don't have to do anything if I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
And then you wake up and you think, okay, well, if I came from where I came from and I'm here now, shouldn't I throw a rope down?
Yeah.
I mean, it just feels like the right thing to do.
Yep.
It's like, gosh, it's like, do I just like be like, hey, it's so great here. And, everybody else that didn't figure this out. So I think the more and more people, like even like you guys, doing the podcast and sharing knowledge with so many people and inspiring so many to get started in real estate, that was kind of my feeling. And then I had this really strong feeling that I wanted to stand for something, that I wanted to feel like at the end of my journey here, that I felt that I put myself out there in a way that was bold. And I think that that's hard for us to do in a way that is that's really from the heart, because I think that we are self-conscious beings and we don't want people not to like us, and we don't want to look a certain way. We have all this stuff, especially women. We have a lot of it. So that was how I just kept kind of looking around for the name of what the company would be. And so then I just decided, you know what, Wealth Warrior Woman, and I'll stand by that. I'll stand by that women can be warriors and wealthy and what that looks like. And so now these days I coach women and often their spouses. Actually, I have some gay couples too that I coach.
That's awesome.
Together. And really what we're looking at is their portfolio and growing their wealth and what it looks like, and making sure all the pieces are in place, because I think there's so much bad information out there. Not to say that I know everything, but I know what doesn't feel right to me. And I've definitely I feel a lot of times that I've been given information that really hasn't helped me in terms of, don't invest in real estate. It's risky. Buy annuities so you can earn 3% a year, and lock them in. And then if you get out, then we're going to give you a prepayment penalty and, we're going to get all the money. So, there's all kinds of those sorts of scenarios playing out. And so I just wanted to be a vehicle for people that could really flesh all that out. And then with that, I also teach a mastermind that is to help women learn how to invest in real estate. And then I created a course, and that's how we work through the process to have that support and flesh through all the ideas. Because it's not, the way you guys work, you have it really dialed in terms of, okay, we flip here, we do buy and holds here. We're making this. I mean, it's a really cool, cool strategy that you have going, but it's hard for people to decide. I mean, I'm sure you talk to so many people where they're like, where should I invest? Is now a good time? Is it, could I lose my money? There's just so many, and they're legitimate questions, because it can be scary and there is risk. But I mean, like you said, I mean, real estate is so forgiving. It's crazy. It's a really a really great vehicle to be invested in.
And it's really forgiving over time.
Yeah, especially if you're long-term passive.
Yeah. Which is why I think that I ended up doing so well, was because I'm not always the most patient person, but I am patient when it comes to investing, and I am willing to put my money into something that I believe in and leave it there and just let it work. And like I said, I was part of it was great, because I was raising my kids, I was doing other things. So I was like, buy a couple properties, then raise the kids, and then just let it, rent them out, deal with it, and then before you know it, you're like, oh wow, that's worth $1.5 million now. That's pretty cool. So, a lot of it, and then a lot of the passive stuff came when I sold a lot of the assets that I had built in LA, and then being able to just reallocate the funds into passive vehicles. So it was pretty easy to get into the cash flow level that I wanted. Because some of these markets, like I would think that Boise's probably not the easiest place to cash flow. Certainly Austin's not at this point. You can be creative. There are always ways to do it. But in Los Angeles, at the time I was busy and really buy and hold was the best play for me. But it was not a great cash flow play, but it was a fantastic appreciation.
Oh, I bet. Yeah. Yeah. Those are kind of the two trade-offs. If you're going to do buy and hold, you're looking at an appreciating market or you're looking at a cash flow market. Like if somebody can find the unicorn, let me know. I would love to find like a 10 to 12% appreciation market that actually cash flows decent. That would be awesome. But like you said, Boise's not cash flow. It's mass appreciation right now. But there are still some ways. Like
I would say you create those deals.
Yeah, you have to create those ones. Yeah, you're not gonna in Boise. You're not gonna get on the MLS and buy a deal that buys you cash flow. Doesn't happen.
Right. Or the strategy that you use. You know, you can do a lot of Airbnbs have been cut off in the cities, but then you can do a 30-day stay, which doesn't count as a short-term rental after it's over 30 days. So then what that enables you to do is furnish rentals, but we call it the long short. Okay. And that's kind of a strategy that works really well.
How do you find those type of guests to come stay for a month?
I have to tell you, again, I have good partners.
Yeah.
So there's all kinds of websites and there are all kinds of vehicles that you can navigate through. You can even put those on Airbnb. You just say 30 days.
Yeah. I imagine you probably get like
there as well. But there is a shortage of housing and there's a shortage of people that can find things. And so some people will move to a state, and for them, it's a great scenario to just be able to move in, have everything there, and have it furnished really cute, and it's a premium because somebody's done all the work for you. So that's a great way to go. It's a great model.
Yeah, we have a duplex, so we were gonna do Airbnb, and then we decided, hey, let's just offer like short-term leases on this. So we offer like a 6-month lease because we're like Idaho is a big new construction market, so people will move here or they'll have a house built for them, but then something happens and they show up and they're like, oh crap, we have 6 months before our house is ready. And now they're like, well, I don't want to get in a year lease because then I got to pay for a full year, so I'll overpay for a 6-month lease. So we had a property, both sides, probably fair market rent was like $1,350. Well, we said, okay, let's do a 6-month lease and you don't have to lock in for a year, and we'll ask $1,800 for it. And we got like 12 applicants, all of them same story. New construction houses being built for us, won't be ready for 6 months. So we found that little niche in our market, and we were able to exploit that and just make a little bit more cash flow.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's a lot more cash flow.
Yeah.
And then did you furnish those?
No, we actually didn't furnish it because that was actually the deciding factor. If we went Airbnb, we still would have made more money, but we were looking at about $10,000 to $15,000 per side to furnish them. And it's actually this cool deal. I don't want to go too deep in it, but we got an owner carry on it for like another 9 months. So we were like, we're going to refi it to a long term after the owner carries up, but we're like, let's just be safe and just put a tenant in there for the rest of our owner carry term. And then that way, if something happens, we can't get the refi, or we just decide, actually, we don't want to refi it, we can just sell it, make like $400,000 and roll that into a multifamily in another state. We wanted to leave that door open. So that's why we didn't go the Airbnb route and furnish it and everything. But so yeah, we didn't even have to pay the furnishing bill, and we still ended up getting like $500 more a month in cash flow per side. So it's like an extra $1,000 for one duplex. It was pretty rad. So
yeah, I love that. In an appreciating market.
Yeah.
So that's great. That's absolutely great. I love that. I think that's a great way to go. I'm looking at a place that I just closed on, a 6.4. And I'm thinking of actually doing kind of a similar play on that one.
Yeah.
Just to get probably going from a 3,000 rent to about a 6,000 or 7,000.
Wow, that's crazy.
Can we spend like 2 minutes going super granular on one particular deal with you, whether it be that one or a previous one? As I think that's where a lot of the knowledge is gained for someone trying to start. Is like, okay, purchase price, how did you set the loan up, the cash brought to the table, your cash flow, and your exit strategy.
And then we'll let you get out of here after this.
Oh yeah, awesome. I mean, I always like to talk about a deal that just closed, because I feel like the markets change so frequently. Yeah. So like if I talk about a deal that I did 10 years ago, I mean, interest rates were different, terms were different, no COVID, you know. So, one of the things, I just closed on a deal, is an off-market deal from a realtor. This is, I bought a couple of properties from her. She's really great at getting into finding sellers that are distressed, that want a win-win, and making it a reasonable offer for them and for the buyer as well. And so this is a property in San Antonio.
Okay.
in a suburb of San Antonio, because I'm in Austin, and it's just very easy. Yeah, San Antonio is a great market.
Yeah.
The offer, this house was a house that burned down 2 years ago and burned to the ground. They rebuilt it.
Oh, wow.
And the lady just couldn't keep it anymore. And so it's probably the ARV on it is 425.
Mm-hmm.
And I got it for $355. I gave her a couple months to stay there for free. And she ended up finding a house now. So we closed yesterday. So she's going to go ahead and move out in 15 days.
Okay.
She does have many, many, many animals.
Oh, nice.
So there will be some cleanup involved in terms of setting it up. The estimated rents are probably $3,200 a month for a long-term tenant, and wouldn't have to do much. Obviously, everything's new, other than paint. And then the projected long-term could be closer to 6,000 to 7,000. So that's why I'm thinking of doing that. For me, I also put time into the equation. So as long as I can hire a team to take care of a lot of the things, then I'm on board. If it's me running around picking up couches and doing that, I'm out.
Yeah.
3,000 is not worth it to me.
Yeah.
And then as far as the loan, I will say loans are getting harder and harder without W-2s.
Yep.
And generally, if you have a company, you can you pay yourself a W-2.
Yep.
But the last year we had a lot of moving parts, and we weren't really taking W-2s, which I wasn't a problem because I actually had a couple other strategies for loans.
Yeah.
But my main lender was switching banks, so he couldn't do it. So I had this is actually probably one of the hairier parts of it, which was that I had a one lender who's an investing lender. They just lend on investments. He's great. And they literally just asked for my corporate return.
Yeah.
Actually a corporate statement, 1 month.
Oh, wow.
And then the loan was going to go through as long as it
1 month.
I know, I'll give you their number.
Yeah, for real.
But I will say though that the biggest problem was that they couldn't they couldn't get the appraisal. So appraisers are really busy right now.
Oh, yeah.
And they couldn't find an appraiser. There's all kinds of laws since 2008. As far as appraisals go, they couldn't make it work. So literally in like 2 weeks ago, he called me and he said, I'm not gonna be able to close. Can you just tell them you need 15 more days? And I was like, well, not really, because the lady found a house and she needs the money in order to buy her house. She's a distressed seller, so I really can't do that. So luckily, I kind of made some calls and went into conventional lending, and literally they ran me through the ringer. We signed yesterday at 4. At 3:30, they were still calling me saying, hey, this paper, can you change it and do this and do that? So I guess my thing is like, just walk through it, be patient. It's like, it's okay. It's just a conversation. Don't get mad at anybody.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, make the deal happen. If you really want the deal, it can work.
Yeah.
And don't get freaked out by the lending process. Just, be creative.
I'm putting my hand up.
We
accidentally, in a group chat with our lender buying a fourplex this last week, he accidentally
I definitely called the lender a jackass to his face. I didn't know he was in the thread, which I don't know if it makes it any better. I thought it was just me knowing the property manager, and I was like, man, he's being a jackass. And then they all text me like, Jeff, what did you just do? We're just trying to close the deal. And I was like, oh, was he in that thread? That was my bad. So that's why I was like,
great lesson to be patient.
Be patient, but also don't do this over group text. Set up an email. It's far more easy to tell who is in the email. Oh man, well, hey,
I've had that happen before. I've had people like I'll send a text to somebody and then they'll send something back about me. One time, it actually only happened once or twice, but it was kind of embarrassing. Like they said something kind of negative about me, and I said, you just said that to me.
Yeah. The best is when they like try and play it off. They're like,
about behind my back.
Yeah, they're like, oh, I know it was you. I meant to send it to you. You're like, no, you didn't.
Yeah,
you ain't tricking nobody over here.
It's a sign. It just lets keep your friends close and keep your people that call themselves friends.
Yeah.
Yeah. So did you say,
certainly you don't want to piss off your lender.
No.
So
Yeah, that was.
no, I called and apologized for him.
I called and just ate it. It was bad.
I just said Jeff gets grumpy and he hasn't had his coffee yet. So
Jeff's emotional. Just it is what it is.
So did you say that
emotional? It is emotional.
That rental would rent for $6,000 a month on the 1 month stays?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, that's what we're projecting. I mean, I have to kind of see how I'm going to play it out because I may end up, I have to decide whether or not I want to furnish it and then figure it out.
Yeah.
But I have another Airbnb that I am just getting ready to set up that's in a suburb of Austin. So that one will be, that'll kind of be the tester because it's almost done. So I'll see how much I like it. So far it's been super easy and everything's been fine, but I haven't, it turned into a very big rehab. Let's just say it's the nicest house in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
I hope the neighbors all appreciate it. But
awesome.
I would stay there. And so, that's always a good barometer for me in terms of what kind of rent I can get.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
For sure.
Well, cool. We don't want to keep you much longer. Just want to tell you how much we really appreciate you coming on the show.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think you shared a ton of knowledge. Like, there's some really good gold nuggets that I want to make sure that we are specific about and pull out and throw up on Instagram and stuff. Because like there are some great lessons that you're talking about it and we're literally going through it.
Yeah, I'm trying to take notes over here real quick.
So yeah, we really appreciate that.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I'm learning from you guys too.
Thank you.
Thank you
really
so
cool
much.
to hear you say that.
How can our listeners get a hold of you if they have any questions or get involved with Wealth Warrior Woman or everything you have going on over there in Austin?
Yeah, you can Instagram me at Wealth Warrior Woman, WOMAN, or go to my website, email me, contact. It's all there. It's pretty easy to get in touch.
Cool. Yeah,
Awesome.
we'll for the listeners, we'll post all the contact information in the links below.
Yep.
And then you guys can reach out to Tamar to get some information on how to reach out to her. So
awesome. Thanks so much.
Yeah,
Appreciate
thank
it.
you so much.
Guys.
All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of the Chasing Freedom podcast with Noah and Jeff.
Please subscribe to our YouTube channel in the show notes below. And if you ever want to get a hold of us, feel free to do it via our Instagrams. You can also follow us for our funny content on TikTok.